Coming to you from Nowheresville, America, we're reviewing New Japan Pro Wrestling and WCW Supershow 3, along with New Japan's King of Pro Wrestling 2015. This is the Golden Age of Grappling Podcast. All right, welcome everybody. This is the Golden Age of Grappling Podcast. Let's go ahead and tell people who we are because we didn't do that in the last episode.
They know who we is.
I don't think they do. There's no history with us and them to allow them to know that.
No, I know. I was just saying that.
You know, so my name's Brandon, or DP, or Diablo Primo, or Deadpool1205, which is the Twitter account. Any of those work. Any of those, will get me to turn my head. What is your name?
I didn't know you had so many aliases.
I didn't know that either until I started building our website, and then I was like, oh, God, these are all adding up really quickly.
Right. Okay, well, I'm Tony G. I'm an all-around wrestling aficionado.
Uh-huh.
And I love all things that involve the art of wrestling, you could say. So,
ooh.
I didn't have names, so I just tried to
taking a shot at the competition in the podcasting world.
Well, maybe. I just tried to supplement the time you took saying all your names by just giving a brief bio of myself.
Okay.
That's how I went about that way. So
yeah. So during the first episode, which had problems and may still get released at some point, but at this point, I don't know if it will.
It's going to be the lost episode.
It's probably going to be the lost episode that'll be released whenever we need a week off. But we explained when we started watching wrestling. You started during the Attitude Era, or right before the Attitude Era, correct?
Yeah, I was just lucky enough to get on the ship before it took off. It was probably 97 or so, maybe late 96, but it was the Hart Foundation was, kind of running things on Raw. Well, that kind of was not the original Hart Foundation. I'm talking like Pillman and those guys with Austin was first coming on.
Yeah.
And then obviously, I came into WCW with the NWO kind of in full swing. So
okay. So yeah, then you started then and you've been watching ever since.
Yes.
I started in around 2002, 2003, 2004, the Ruthless Aggression era. I became a wrestling fan because of the PlayStation 2 video games, the SmackDown video games. Specifically, Shut Your Mouth was the first one that I remember playing, and I played the shit out of that game.
It worked for skateboarding, and it worked pretty well for wrestling, too. Video games played a big part.
That is weird that, like, the late 90s, early 2000s, video games got me into a lot of things. I didn't care about snowboarding before Cool Boarders. I didn't care about skateboarding before Tony Hawk.
Well, we were the last physically active generation as far as I'm concerned. It was like we played a video game and then it inspired us to go outside and try to do that video game. Yeah. That's like, we were at the end of that. Kids now are just like, well, why the fuck would I go outside and try to skateboard when I can just sit here and be the best at it, so...
Yeah. Well, and plus, those kind of games aren't really that popular anymore. It's mostly shooting games, which you can't really go outside and do.
Well, you shouldn't anyway, otherwise it doesn't end well from anything I've seen.
No, not at all. So the video games got me into the whole thing, and I started watching, when John Cena was still a rapper, or just becoming a rapper and all that stuff. So I've been watching since then. And then during college, we met each other, we started watching wrestling, and it's been watching wrestling ever since.
Absolutely.
All right, so the show is the Golden Age of Grappling Podcast. We are a podcast that reviews wrestling. Our website is www.goldenagepodcast.com. We have a Twitter account at GrappleCast. And if you want to send us an email, let us know anything about, what your thoughts are on the show. If you've got an idea for something we should review, goldenagegrappling@gmail.com. So I want to make sure I got that information out because I generally forget it by the end of the show.
So now you know.
All right, so this week's show, we have a look at the old and a look at the New Japan Pro Wrestling.
Yeah, taking a trip to the land of the rising sun.
Yes, we have a double feature for you. We're going to do an old show because that's generally what we're looking at doing for this show. And then we're also going to do the last show that they had, basically, on October 12th, the King of Pro Wrestling 2015.
King of Pro Wrestling.
All right, but first, so let's talk about that first, and then we'll go into the other one next. The next show is going to be the WCW New Japan Supershow 3 from 1993. And that one is on YouTube. You can actually get the link on our show notes if you would like to watch it, because it's not available anywhere else for some fucking reason.
Yeah, it's the description that I read through Wikipedia was just, for basically unexplained reasons, this is one of select shows that didn't make it on the network. So I don't know. I'm not sure what else from WCW didn't, but the super shows with New Japan Pro Wrestling from 91, 92, and 93 are absent from the network for whatever reason.
Yeah, because like your original, like you threw out like, let's watch one of these 3, and I started searching, and it was like, well, 3's the only one I can find the full thing for. So
right, which is which is fine. It was it was an entertaining show.
I enjoyed it.
We'll get to that later.
All right, so yes, first let's talk about current today New Japan Wrestling. We have the New Japan King of Pro Wrestling card, which took place, like I said, on October 12th. That was in, where did I write that down at? Let me see, where did they do that at? Ryogoku Sumo Hall in Japan. So that's going to be that one. The match starts. So let's go ahead and start off with the first match, which is if you've not watched New Japan Wrestling, they do a ton of multi-man tag team matches. They fucking get their guys on like every card. It's ridiculous.
You could argue too much, but that I'll leave that be. But yeah, it's a little bit much sometimes.
So we'll get into that the further we get into reading more and more of these. All right, so the first one, we start off with the team of Jushin Thunder Liger, Kushida, Mascara Dorada, Ryusuke Taguchi, and Tiger Mask, taking on the Young Lions, David Finlay, Jay White, Juice Robinson, Sho Tanaka, and Yohei Komatsu.
Yeah, so anyway.
What did you think of this match?
I mean, it was a little jarring as a fan that I don't watch it on a regular basis, certainly not as much as you do.
Yeah.
So for me, it was an immediate, almost like sensory overload of names and people. You know, it was like inviting your friends over. Hey, you want to watch the show Game of Thrones? Oh yeah, I'm about halfway through the season. Like, sit down and don't ask me any questions about these people. Like, it was. Yeah. It was a little, but you know what? That's my ignorance. That's not their fault. You know, if I was watching the show on a regular basis, it probably wouldn't have been that way. So, my first question was: is that C.J. Parker?
Yes, Juice Robinson, also known as C.J. Parker.
Yeah,
My Fight Matters.
Yes, the prior NXT jobber to the stars. So,
white dreadlocks for everyone. So this match, with a lot of these 10-man tag team matches and 8-man tag team matches, as I've began watching New Japan, I've found that as much as, for some reason, every time it starts, when I start watching it, I'm like, fuck, another multi-man tag match. But every time, almost without fail, by the middle of the match, I'm totally into it, and I love watching these big multi-man matches. I don't know why I find them so entertaining, because they can get repetitive.
Well, and there are some that are some are better than others also.
That's also true, yes. So yeah, this one, the veterans win this one. Jushin Thunder Liger and Kushida and all those guys, they defeated the Young Lions, David Finlay, Jay White, Juice Robinson, and Joe Tamako.
Now you're much more familiar with how things are going, or how things go over there. How often do the Young Lions win? I mean, like, was there even a chance that they were going to win that match over those guys?
See, that was the weird thing when I first started watching it. Usually they're all split up. Usually there's a couple of those young guys on the same team as Jushin Thunder Liger, and then a couple of those young guys on the same team as Tiger Mask. So they're always split up. So some of them usually do win, and some of them usually lose. And so that's what I thought was kind of strange when it first started. And I'm like, oh wow, they've got all the young guys on the same team. I wonder what they're doing with that. Like if they're planning to like start something interesting with these guys, or if it's just, all right, let's mix it up a little bit.
And for more casual wrestling fans, the name David Finlay might sound somewhat familiar, because that is the son of the Belfast brawler himself, Fit Finlay, right?
Oh yeah, and Fit Finlay. Now that's another name that sticks with me, because he came around again fairly early in my watching, or when I was really in depth first watching like any possible hour WWE put out. That was one of the guys that like came around, and I fucking hated Fit Finlay so much. And I really came to enjoy him by the time he ended up finally retiring. But, man, when he first came around, I despised that man.
Oh, yeah, he was a great worker. And he was somebody for me that was weird, because I was like, is that random old Irish guy that I used to watch on WCW Saturday Night. Like he was, a lower mid card guy in WCW that would kind of come and go, and so when they just like popped up in WWE, it's like for all the WCW guys that they never gave two shits about or didn't give any push at all, Finlay might have been second only to Booker T in like quality of like life in the WWE after WCW. And
that's true.
I don't know. Yeah, it's just crazy. I mean, I know he probably was helped in other ways. I know he was an agent and stuff like that.
Oh yeah.
So. But anyway, so anyway, back to David Finlay. How much of him have you seen?
I've not seen a ton.
Okay, is he is he new? Pretty new still?
Yeah. He just started like really coming around, I believe, this year. Like that's the other thing. For listeners that are listening to this, if you're a New Japan fan, you probably know more than I do. I've only been watching for the last year.
Right.
But still, like in the last year, David Finlay, I've not really seen a ton of him. I know he was on some of the lower card matches in the G1, but I still haven't gotten around to watching all the lower card matches on the G1. I just watched the tournament matches. So the little bit I have seen of him, I've liked. I think he had a match. Oh, who was he against? It might have been against Jay White specifically. That was really good. But I can't remember that match specifically, like who his opponent was. He had a really good match during this summer, though, that I remember that like various podcast reviewing sites that I listened to were discussing it afterwards even.
Okay. All right. So anyway, yeah, so like you were saying, the Jushin Liger Tiger match, that team was victorious in this match.
Yeah. So they won that opening matchup. We immediately then go to, that's the other thing that you really start to notice in these New Japan shows. Not a lot of bullshit, not a lot of fat. They go match to match to match to match.
Right.
Like you'll have the intermission in the middle, but other than that, it's just constant going.
Yeah. Even less bullshit in 93. Like, my God, man, it didn't stop. Nothing ever stopped.
Oh, yeah, dude. That match, that show we're going to talk about later, there's no stoppage. They even cut so much out that you don't even see the championship awarded at one point in the later show.
Yeah.
All right, so match number 2, Tomoaki Hanma taking on Yoshihashi. Yoshihashi, the Dynasty Warrior, basically, is what he looks like.
Now, you're not a Yoshihashi fan, is this correct?
No. See, now there is, I don't know, I tried to give him a chance because my introduction to Yoshihashi was from W.H. Park and I can't remember the other guy's name, from Japan Audio Wrestling. They've been doing Japanese wrestling reviews for a long time, and they review every show. And one of them is actually a writer of a New Japan history book that I'm wanting to get a hold of so I can see what was going on in the past. But yeah, they started me off disliking Yoshihashi because they dislike him so much that they couldn't let it go without pointing out all the little things that he would do wrong or the things that he looked weird when he was doing, mainly his outfit. But I tried giving him a shot, but every time that I would watch it was just like, you know what? They're more right every time I watch this guy. I just agree with them more and more. So, I'm a Yoshihashi fan now.
And so what were your thoughts on this match? Because
I enjoyed this match. Hanma hit a lot more headbutts than he usually does.
A lot of headbutts.
So yes, for you, that's my question: is what is your what did you think of Mr. Honma? Because he's kind of an interesting figure in New Japan.
I mean, it could take some getting used to. There's a style, and we'll get to the match later. Like the guys in that Never Championship match and Hamna, and I don't know. I think their brand of wrestling is maybe even different than what some of these other guys are doing. It's much more like just brute physicality, no sell, just, beat the hell out of each other. And, I mean, I could warm up to it, but, I mean, to be honest with you, these were not my favorite guys on the card, or like...
Oh, yeah. I could totally see that, especially because, I mean, there's a lot of very acrobatic guys wrestling in this show.
Right, and I'm not even someone that, like, it has to be all super, like the junior heavyweights, and they don't have to, be flying all over the ring Lucha Libre style.
Yeah.
I just thought, like, the pace and I don't know, I wasn't in love with, with this match or the Never Championship match later on.
Okay. All right, so in that match, Hanma won that match, and they kind of they made mention of him possibly looking to go after the Never Championship after the match was over. He did, he's got a history of doing terrible during the G1 tournament, and he didn't do well again this year. He had a few wins, but I think it was a long while before he even got his first one, and I don't know that he got more than 2. But he doesn't usually win in the G1 a whole lot, and he misses his headbutts. The fans go nuts every time he tries for a headbutt. If you've never watched New Japan, he kind of has the Hulk Hogan colors, a little bit more pink than red. But, the crowd really loves Honma. I'm not sure exactly what it is about him. I've started to enjoy him the more I've watched him because the headbutt thing cracks me up so much. But, as far as, just a straight-up wrestling match, yeah, his style's a little bit different.
And, I don't have any issue with it. Like I said, the more I watch, maybe I'll kind of come to enjoy it even more. But my initial reaction was just, I don't know. After so many headbutts and so much of that chops and kicks and no one's fault, I don't know. I got a little tired of it.
Well, and I mean, now there is a difference here. I myself am not a huge headbutt fan in most wrestling matches. I don't like when that's a wrestler's basically equivalent to a punch move. But at the same time, Honma's headbutts are falling headbutts more so than just the rear back and fucking knock somebody in the head with your head. Those headbutts come in later in the Never Championship, like you had mentioned. We get a few headbutts in that match. And, those kind of headbutts I'm not as big of a fan of. I mean, they still affect me, and which is obviously the reason that they're done. But the Honma headbutts are usually a little bit more comedic than they are brutal.
Okay, right.
But, whatever. All right, so so Honma defeated Yoshihashi in that match, and then we go on to match number 3. Do you have the lineup?
No, I don't have it in front of me.
Okay, I'll just walk us through this whole one then. All right, so we have another multi-man tag match. This one, I really like the one team, but as you said, there's just one that's not like the others. So we have Hiroyoshi Tenzan, Manabu Nakanishi, which is the guy that I could never remember his name, which we discussed in the last show, Satoshi Kojima, and Yuji Nagata, taking on the team of Hiroki Goto, Katsuyori Shibata, and Kota Ibushi, which are all 3 very big names in the company, and then Captain New Japan.
Yeah, I loved 7/8 of this match. I don't know what the fuck's up with that guy, but now this one, different from the first one. I thought, I really enjoyed this as far as a match goes. I thought this was a very entertaining matchup.
See, now that's one thing that, that first one, they're always, they're a little bit fun, but that first one I could definitely see being a lot less entertaining than this one, because the guys involved in this match are just very well, liked. They're enjoyed by the fans. Kojima and Tenzan are a legendary tag team, and then Yuji Nagata, Blue Justice, with the fucking arm bar with the eyes rolling back of the head. I do really enjoy the old guys.
That was one of the coolest things I've ever seen in my life. When he just went crazy doing that arm bar and his eyes rolled back, that was awesome, man. Because for me, I remember Yuji Nagata in his WCW days. He was an NWO member when everybody was an NWO member.
Okay.
He was a Sonny Ono guy. I remember Sonny Ono was his manager, and so I remember Nagata a little bit. Him, and he's a guy that I had some recollection of, but seeing him in this way was, I don't know, it might have been the best I'd ever seen him wrestle, one of the best matches I'd ever seen him in.
Oh yeah. So we have that match, and then in that match, Hiroki Goto is the samurai. Katsuyori Shibata, he doesn't really have a whole lot of a gimmick. He's just very stiff and very good. I love Shibata. He's one of my favorite wrestlers.
Yeah, I like Shibata. Yeah, Shibata really impressed me. I like him a lot.
So, yeah, and I think Kota Ibushi is also another guy that I think is really a fantastic wrestler. This match, he didn't really get to shine all that much as usual, but I think he's really good also. I don't know why Captain New Japan is in that match. That's the one of those characters that I still don't understand in New Japan, is why do we have this guy who's kind of dumpy in
he's awful.
A sweatsuit with a terrible mask on, and there is I know Noah has a Captain Noah also, because I've watched a match between the two of them. I don't know why these various promotions have captains.
But yeah, so anyway, really entertaining match. This was another kind of legends against young guys, but these aren't young lions though, right? I mean, you would say these are kind of the up and comers, right?
These are established young guys that are getting title matches. Like Kota Ibushi took on he won the not the Young Lion. I think it might have been. No, it wasn't the Young Lions Cup. He won the New Japan Cup in the spring and got to take on AJ Styles for the title. Shibata has been having a great run throughout the G1. He had a bunch of big wins. And then Hiroki Goto was the Intercontinental Champion for most of the year. So, yeah, those guys are established dudes. And they ended up losing the match to Tenzan, Nakanishi, Kojima, and Nagata. Yeah,
which I had no issue with. It was a great match.
That's the one thing I do like about these multi-man tag teams. When they're multi-mans and they're not, like, factions, like, really. Like, it's not like, because then the loss isn't really on all four guys. Like, when it's not a team effort as much as, like, an established team, it doesn't feel like as big of a deal when they lose.
Right.
So, yeah, so then we go to match number 4, and this is where we really, I think, get into, like, some of those really, like, good technical matches. We have the Tag Team Championship, the IWGP Junior Heavyweight Tag Team Championship, Red Dragon, Bobby Fish, and Kyle O'Reilly, the champions, taking on Roppongi Vice, which is Trent Beretta and Rocky Romero.
Yeah, I loved this match. I mean, I love Red Dragon, so seeing them in this setting was, pretty awesome.
Yeah, and Kyle O'Reilly has impressed the hell out of me since I've started watching him this past year.
I want to see him and Shibata. I'd like to see that match.
That would be a really good match. I hadn't thought about that. That'd be awesome. So, yeah, in this match, I think that I heard something about there was some possible confusion. I'm pretty sure Red Dragon won and weren't supposed to.
Really?
Yeah, like the word, from what I understood, I can't remember exactly what they were talking about, but the guys at the Law, someone mentioned, because at the very end, it's a little odd the way that the pin goes down, and there's thoughts that maybe Roppongi Vice was supposed to win the championship there, and I should probably look that up before continuing to spread the rumors, but...
we're talking rumors. You want the facts, you go somewhere else.
No, but this is a good match. Like, if you're looking for a good tag team match, both of these tag teams have proven themselves again and again throughout this year, as I've watched them on New Japan, and I know you've watched Red Dragon a ton on, like,
absolutely,
ROH.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Well, and that's, I mean, give me Red Dragon over the Young Bucks, any day of the week. And that can upset people however they want. But
I was going to say, that's some controversial talk there.
I'm not saying that the Young Bucks aren't a highly entertaining team. I don't know. Red Dragon is just more up my alley, I guess you could say.
Yeah, the Red Dragon, they're more technical wrestlers. Where like the Young Bucks are a lot of fun, but it's just a lot of stuff happening just because it can.
The Young Bucks are cotton candy. All right, I'm just going to leave it at that.
That's a good topic. All right. Young Bucks are cotton candy. All right, so after this match, we then go on to the IWGP Junior Heavyweight Championship match, which actually I was reading the Wikipedia about this show, and they were talking about people's reviews of the show. That was one of the complaints Dave Meltzer had. He was complaining about the not necessarily the booking of each match, but the order in which the matches were put. That we had both Junior Heavyweight Championships back-to-back with all non-Japanese dudes. It is kind of weird. It's just like, oh, here's a section of foreigners.
Well, and for me, for another ignorant American wrestling fan watching this show, it was almost like, oh, here's a giant chunk of the show that I'm really interested in, and now it's over. You know what I mean? I don't know. It was just kind of like,
it would have been better maybe to mix them up a little bit.
Yeah, exactly.
Have some of the other guys involved in the other matches.
It was like, hey, every match you're interested in watching, they're all happening in a row.
And they're going to happen right now.
Yeah, they should have spread those out a little bit.
So this one's for the championship, the Junior Heavyweight Championship. We have the champion, Kenny Omega, along with Cody Hall, because, of course, he's part of the Bullet Club, taking on Reborn Matt Sydal.
Yeah, awesome match here. I mean, these, just... Not to anyone's surprise, if you've seen either one of these guys, you know exactly what they're capable of, and
oh yeah,
it was nonstop action, great stuff. Kenny Omega is so over in Japan, it's crazy. He has that place under his thumb.
He's so over the top too. I love how ridiculously
oh yeah,
cartoon evil bad guy he is.
Oh yeah, he's one of those guys too. People are like, oh, he should come to America. Why would that guy want to give up what he has over there? You know what I mean?
That's true.
He's not AJ Styles even. You know what I mean? He lives there. That is his, he has made that his home.
Yeah.
That's, not just where he goes to wrestle sometimes. That's where he's from, So
okay.
It's just, why would he give that up to come and be, given a scripted promo and to have to go out there and, lose bullshit matches? I mean, he's a guy that's too established and a guy that I think is at an age where why bother at this point?
That's true. Yeah. Because it's not like he was on a place that may be considered a sinking ship like a TNA or something. He's doing well with a company that's doing well. Why not just stay there?
Right. It's kind of like a Young Bucks situation. The Young Bucks are everybody's. Why don't they go to NXT? Why don't they do? Because they're the fucking Young Bucks. They could. Yeah. They're making their own schedule. They're doing what they want. They work when they. You know what I mean? Like, there aren't a lot of guys that can work like that. Cabana's another guy.
Yeah.
If you listen to his podcast, he obviously still wishes he worked in the WWE, but based on how often he talks about it. But they call their own shots. They do their thing. They do things on their terms, and they can make a good living doing it. Why would they give that up without being promised the moon?
Yeah, and for big Young Bucks fans, like if you're one of those guys that watches every Young Bucks match out there, and you're super excited about the Young Bucks, if they go to NXT, you're not going to get to see them do all the fun stuff that you like watching them do.
No, they'll actually have to learn how to properly tell a story in their matches, and they'll sell. So yeah, that would be kind of interesting to see them in NXT one time.
Oh, I love how much you dislike the Young Bucks. All right, let's go.
I love watching the Young Bucks. They're cotton candy.
You just like to criticize them at the same time. All right. Match number 6. We have another 6-man tag match, so another multi-man tag. Kazuchi Sakuraba, which I don't know if I can pronounce his first name right, but Sakuraba, Shinsuke Nakamura, and Toru Yano, which is like one of my those two guys. Shinsuke Nakamura and Toru Yano are like my first two favorites since I started watching this. They're taking on the Bullet Club, Bad Luck Fale, Doc Gallows, and Carl Anderson, along with Tama Tonga coming along to just stand outside and cause ruckus.
Because that's probably where he's best suited.
Yeah,
let's be honest.
I wouldn't have minded maybe getting to see Doc Gallows and Carl Anderson just defend their titles against somebody. But for overall, I thought this match was all right.
Well, and I loved where they're going with Anderson and Nakamura, too.
Yes, that's the one thing I really enjoyed about this match. I forgot about that.
Based on the end of his Intercontinental title win over Goto, when Anderson came out, and then, with this match, I just, that's something to look forward to, I think.
Oh, yeah. So, Sakuraba, he's an MMA legend in Japan. He's been around for a long time. He has an amazing match with Ishii at Wrestle Kingdom 9, and then he also had a really good match during the summer. I can't remember what their big show of the summer is called, but against Shibata, and that was one of those matches that really got me understanding what Shibata was all about and how he was able to do stuff. The Shinsuke Nakamura and Toru Yano. So what were your thoughts on Yano?
I liked him. You know what I mean? Like, he's another guy where, again, ignorant American wrestling fan, he doesn't jump off the screen at me. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
I wasn't like, whoa, this Yano guy. Where Nakamura is just a fucking sight. You know what I mean?
That's
like,
true. Nakamura is like Jeff Hardy calls himself the charismatic enigma. But I'm pretty sure Nakamura beats him in charisma. Like, that dude, right. It doesn't matter what he's saying. You can't understand what his words are, but you know what he means.
Right. But obviously, after watching his match and, seeing the way I was a fan by the end of this matchup. He
nice.
pulled me in, so I could definitely see why you like him.
Yeah. All right, so that match, the Toru Yano, Shinsuke Nakamura, and Sakuraba defeated the Bullet Club in that match. And obviously, they're building.
Not a great night for the Bullet Club outside of Omega.
No, you're really right. I hadn't thought about that. They just pretty much just lost. So they're obviously building towards Carl Anderson and Nakamura. I'm excited to see that match. I think it's going to be good. Match number 7, we have the Never Openweight Championship.
Never.
Which confused the hell out of me for a long time when I first started watching. I was like, I don't know what this title is about. But we had Togi Makabe, the champion, taking on Tomohiro Ishii, the Stone Pitbull.
My impression of the Never Championship, based on what I've seen so far, is it's the title for the big guys that don't leave their feet, and they just get chopped and kicked the shit out of for 20 minutes.
Yeah.
So, hey, I may be singing a different tune about these kind of matches, but I'm just, at this point, I find it entertaining, but I'm just amazed that these guys do this.
I'd heard someone mention the possibility of Kota Ibushi going for the Never title. I think he actually might have just had a Never title championship match. If that happened, that would really obviously change the way that those matches worked. But yeah, as much as like you've seen, for this whole year I've watched, Togi Makabe's been the Never champion. So I've just watched a lot of hard-hitting, ridiculous matches where guys just don't leave their feet.
And there's nothing wrong with that.
No, I see. I'm not a huge Togi Makabe fan. He's all right. He wears a big chain when he's coming to the ring. And apparently, part of his character is he loves sweets, which is weird that he's a super tough guy.
How do I get that gimmick, man? Yeah, I'll just eat candy bars, I guess. That'll be my thing. Is that okay?
And then Tomohiro Ishii, he's apparently is Nakamura's best friend in the company. They hang out together. Most of Nakamura's Instagram is just Ishii pictures of him sleeping and eating. So those two hang out a lot, and he is a super tough dude.
Yeah, I hope they're friends, because otherwise those pictures are really creepy.
That's true. Yeah. So Tomohiro Ishii wins that match and takes the Never Openweight Championship. So those hard-hitting matches will just continue. Now, match number 8, Hiroshi Tanahashi. Here we get to the two main events. We have Hiroshi Tanahashi, for some reason, with Captain New Japan. I don't know why Captain New Japan hangs out with Tanahashi. He just does.
Fucking linger.
Taking on Tetsuya Naito, who is the bad guy who recently became a bad guy in this past year. He's had his big turn and developed this new character where he walks down in a metal mask and a suit and is super fucking slow getting ready.
Yeah, no, I dug this guy, man. I like him a lot. Does he always kind of have that wide-eyed, faraway
Yes.
He looked like he was on drugs, is that normal? Is that how he always looks? Because, from what you've told me about this guy, he's a big player in the company. So, I was just a little surprised at his look. I don't know. He just, those big wide eyes. I was what the hell is going on?
Yeah, no, he pretty much keeps that look most of the time. He looks like he kind of has a look, I think he's going for, I really don't give a shit. I can beat whoever I want, but I don't really give a shit about this whole thing, and you can't make me do whatever you want me to make me do. I don't know. He attacks Red Shoes every fucking match. Red Shoes is one of the referees, for those who have not watched New Japan, and he, again, attacked the referee during this match.
That son of a bitch.
Lots of heel stuff from Naito in this match.
I really dug this. Tanahashi is, the super face, obviously, and plays that character perfectly well. These two played off each other well. Their characters, perfect contrast of good and bad, and I was very entertained.
And one of the things that was interesting about this match is this crowd. For some reason, the crowd at this show was very pro Naito.
Yeah, it was almost do you think that America, in all our infinite wisdom, we do, maybe we've been a little bit of a bad influence, and they're taking our call on the John Cena sucks thing, and they're oh, Americans say it's cool to hate the top babyface.
Oh, yeah.
So what if we started booing Tanahashi? I don't know. That's the only explanation I could think of. Or maybe it had something to do with just the location of where they were. I don't know.
I know that various towns, when they were doing the G1, it was obvious that there were towns that were pro-Tanahashi and towns that were anti-Tanahashi.
Okay.
And in anti-Tanahashi towns, he would wrestle as the heel.
Oh,
he
wow.
would do shitty things and, kind of be above everything kind of a deal. And he would really take on that heel role in those towns, and it was entertaining to watch. That's why it threw me so much when he was the heel at this one, because this is in Tokyo.
Yeah, so
it's what is going on?
Yeah, it's either the John Cena sucks effect has made it to the to Japan.
Yeah.
Or it's just a home crowd thing. They were just in a place that was really into Naito.
Yeah, so Naito has started this. So I'm pretty sure that they really kind of had the crowd 50-50 by the end. It was very pro Naito at the beginning, and it kind of turns. You get a lot more Tanahashi chance as the match goes, because obviously he's just that good.
And that's how it goes with Cena over here, though, too.
That's true. That's true. I hadn't thought about that.
Everybody boos John Cena when he comes out, but he's still. They're still cheering for him, halfway through the match.
Oh yeah. So partway through this match, when they had entered, there was actually two men in metal masks, which hasn't been a thing beforehand. Naito is actually a guy who has wrestled for CMLL, and while he's over there, he had become part of a group, or I'm not sure if I don't think he's the leader of the group, but he's part of a group, Los Ingobernables or something. It's the Ungovernables is what they are. And
so basically they're bad guys.
Yes, exactly. You can't tell them what to do. And so they brought out this second guy. He just kind of stood by this ringside for most of the match. And then at one point, Naito shoves Tanahashi into Red Shoes, which then goes into the corner. Red Shoes goes down for a long time at this point. The other guy comes in, they start beating the shit out of Tanahashi, and then we get a save, which is this. I've not seen this really happen in New Japan since I've started watching. Like, that was another thing Dave Meltzer was complaining about. He thought this was too Americanized, but I liked it. I enjoyed it. Hiroki Goto and Shibata rushed the ring and saved Tanahashi. I thought this was awesome. I was really excited during this part of the match.
Well, and again, yeah, I asked you. I was like, is that normal? Like, do they? does it? I didn't think that kind of a thing happened over there. So I was I thought that I was like, wow, that's how odd that and even like the beating up of the ref. I mean, I guess you said that Naito's done it before, but that's another thing that I just felt like that's probably an American influence, right? I mean, are they always beating the refs up over there?
Like, I don't think a lot of people go right after the ref, but there are, the heels definitely use it to their advantage every once in a while, especially a lot lately. Naito, a ton. That's another thing that, like, when we were watching that we were kind of discussing, you really, really, really have to try hard to get disqualified in New Japan.
Oh, it's like ECW. It's like pretty much no disqualification unless the storyline calls for it, and then all of a sudden this move or this action is going to result in a disqualification. You're like, wait, what?
Like, I'm not sure. I'm pretty sure most guys have let go of the hold before the 5 count. Maybe that's like the one way to get disqualified. I'm not sure exactly how that works. But yeah, guys will use weapons in the match.
Right.
Tag matches break down constantly.
And I think it's just another thing that jars the American wrestling fan is that, well, it's like, what the hell's the ref even doing there?
Exactly.
Why is the ref even involved in this match? They do nothing besides make the count, because God knows none of these people are going to say, I quit. They make that very clear. Like, I don't even know if that exists in Japan.
Yeah, so it's interesting. I'm like, as I've been watching it, it's been more of like, the more I've noticed it, it's like, it's going to happen. And when you're first, starting to watch coming from the American perspective, it's like, what the fuck is going on? But then I don't know. I just started to be like, I don't know. I don't care. Whatever. Just do it. It's like,
right,
it makes the match fun.
Yeah.
Fine.
And I'm just not, I think I'll get there. You know what I mean? I just have to watch more of it because my exposure to New Japan is what those guys do in America. So when I see Okada, it's Okada versus Roderick Strong, and like Nakamura versus Adam Cole. And so I see them in a different way than they even work while they're over there. So it's just something that I'll warm up to. I'm confident.
So this match ends when Tanahashi kicks out and then hits 2 high fly flows in a row to pin Naito and get the win. Like I said, I really enjoyed this match. I thought the interference, I didn't mind the interference too much because it worked out to where after the interference was over, they were still pretty much on level playing field.
Right, yeah.
Like, I feel like that doesn't ruin the end of the match whenever they are able to manage to pull it back to being even after the interference
happens.
happens.
It doesn't just spiral out of control and then end suddenly.
Exactly, yeah, because I don't like those endings, especially to matches as like long and good as this match. I wrote down here, I gave 4 Naito spitting in other people's mouths out of 5. Because he hammers Tanahashi in the middle of that match right in the mouth, and it is disgusting.
Oh, yeah.
So, all right, so now we go to the main event of the evening, match number 9 for the IWGP Heavyweight Championship. We have the champion, Kazuchika Okada, taking on AJ Styles, who obviously has most of the Bullet Club along with him. Doc Gallows, Carl Anderson, and Tama Tonga all coming to the ring along with AJ Styles. Okada has Gato, who is apparently the booker of the company, that comes down with him, but he never really seems to get involved. He just, every once in a while, he gets hit, but I don't really see him attacking people too much.
No, yeah, the Rainmaker versus the Phenomenal One.
True, I forgot. They do both have very good, very good nicknames.
Very good surnames, yes.
So Carl Anderson at the beginning of this match, he tries to fix AJ's hat hair, which cracked me the fuck up. Anderson just like...
Maybe AJ should lose the hat. What do you say? Like, why don't you put some fucking gel in your hair?
It's like,
all right? You're
I don't care
championship contender.
Yeah, it's like, I don't care that you don't have gel in your hair. Like, it's fine that that's the style that you're going for. But why do you put the hat on and then just, like, mess up your hair before you come to the ring? I don't understand the hat whatsoever with the baseball hat. So we have Anderson Gallows at the ringside. AJ chants to start, but AJ actually puts a stop to that pretty fucking quickly. I thought that was pretty awesome because it was like, the crowd most of the night had been pro heels as far as like the Naito and all that stuff. And AJ did not allow that to start. They started chanting AJ. He started screaming at him.
Right. They're like, fine, we won't.
So this match, it's a very long match and a very good match. I fucking love this match. This AJ match, there's a giant springboard off the top of the rope for the AJ Superman punch. I don't know what it is about those rings in Japan, but his Superman punches have looked better and better every time I see him.
Oh, yeah, no, yeah. He looked great in this match. I mean, it was amazing back and forth action, I thought, between both of them.
Yeah, so AJ at some point hits what the announcers call a Styles Buster. I didn't realize that was a move that he did. I've not really paid a whole lot of attention to AJ Styles until this point.
You know, we really can't complete this without stopping and talking a little bit about the commentary that took place.
Okay, yeah. So yeah, let's go ahead and go into that because I fell asleep when we were watching this together in English, so I actually didn't see the finale.
Well, I can understand why. It was probably because of the fucking 15-minute periods of silence between Kevin Kelly and Matt Striker.
I don't think they liked each other.
Like, what the hell were they? I don't think they liked each other, and I think there were noticeable moments when they were stepping on each other's toes, and I think that was the problem because Kevin Kelly is a play-by-play commentator.
Yes.
That is your play-by. Matt Striker wants to be both. And that's why Matt Striker doesn't work with anybody except for Vampiro, and that's because Vampiro's out of his fucking mind.
Yeah, Vampiro's just like, all right, whatever, man. You
because
keep talking.
Vampiro just sits there like a drunk fan and reacts to the matches is why they get along so well. Matt Striker just does the play-by-play, does the color, and then every now and then Vampiro's like, holy shit, man, did you see that? You know, it's like, I mean, so they work well. This man, wow. Like, you could just feel the tension, like, coming through your television. They would just stop talking for, like, forever. No one's calling action. No one's saying anything.
Well, and it's also, throughout the match, like, Matt Striker is, he's not the most versed in New Japan, but fuck if Kevin Kelly didn't even look at a Wikipedia page before he went over there.
Oh, and, yeah. He was like,
he was like nothing.
These guys come over to ROH and work our tele. I know all about New Japan wrestling. Yeah. I don't think he did his homework.
No, and it definitely showed. They didn't flow very well at all, which it stinks because I want the English commentary to become a more common thing. Because it opens the doors for people to watch. Like, when I first started watching, I watched Wrestle Kingdom 9, which had English commentary. It introduced me to the characters, and then I started watching, all the Japanese commentary, which it didn't matter because I already had that basis for the characters.
Right.
And I feel like that's a good thing. But when it's commentary that ends up as poor as this one ended up being, especially once it got near the end and they had finally given up on each other.
Yeah, completely.
It's just like, why? I don't know. So
they made it awkward at times.
Yes, they definitely made it awkward. And that's one of those things that, as I had sent you a text earlier because I was watching our next show, the WCW Supershow, and man, if there's not a day and night like group of announcers, because we're going to get to listen to Tony Schiavone and JR on that show. Way better.
Oh, yeah, way better.
So Okada hits 3 Bullet Club members with a suicide dive. AJ hits a big superplex, and we're about 19 minutes into the match now. The match is very long. It's about 45 minutes if you just watch the file, but it's 30 minutes and 15 seconds is the total match time. AJ keeps going for the calf splitter on Okada. There's a bunch of rolls back into the calf splitter, a long stretch of possibly tapping out. We get a few tombstone pile drivers from Okada, which is interesting because the tombstone is not a finisher in Japan.
No, it's not.
It's a powerful move, but it is not a finisher.
I'll save my commentary about that kind of stuff for the review of our Super Show.
Yeah, because I thought that was interesting when I saw that. I was like, oh, more tombstones, and the announcers actually talk about it this time. So that happens. Okada hits a triple Rainmaker to pin AJ. He picks him up, hits him with one, picks him up, hits him with another one, picks him up and hits him finally again to pin AJ Styles and retain the belt.
So just real quickly before we move on, in your opinion, where does this leave the Bullet Club?
Well, I mean, they still have championships in the Bullet Club. I think they're just still, they're just kind of still going. The Carl Anderson is supposed to be the leader of the Bullet Club. When Prince Devitt left, he left it in Carl Anderson's, control. But you obviously have AJ Styles in the team now.
Wonder whatever happened to that Prince Devitt guy.
Well, he's, AJ Styles is obviously considered higher up than Carl Anderson is, but he's technically not the leader. I don't know. Every once in a while they'll do some stuff where it looks like maybe they're going to start doing a storyline, but it hasn't evolved into anything since then. Because in the G1 they were, forced to go up against each other multiple times, so you got a lot of that play. But I don't know. The Bullet Club, I think they're just kind of still where they're at. AJ's probably still near the top. I mean, I don't know who he's going to take on next time. Because that's the one thing about New Japan is I don't really understand once you lose a championship match, how you get taken into your next storyline unless something at the end of that match happened. They have a lot of shows that aren't filmed for New Japan World and stuff happens there. And so sometimes I don't know exactly what's happening until I watch the next match and then they, show video or something.
Oh, okay. I got you.
So after the match, Okada gets a giant trophy along with his belt. Or not a giant trophy. He gets a regular trophy along with his belt. And then Tanahashi comes to the ring. And as he's leaving, a child comes to the ring, and they kind of just stare down at each other because this is now the Wrestle Kingdom 9 or Wrestle Kingdom 10 main event. Unless I don't believe that there's any more defenses of their positions until then. But if there is, then obviously that might not happen. But so far that's what's penciled in as the main event for the Tokyo Dome show,
and that will be something to see.
It'll be good. Those two guys are going to be, they'll tear the house down at the end of that show. As Tanahashi's leaving, a child runs over with his Tanahashi towel and asks, Tana, and Tanahashi takes it and wipes his sweat down. I don't understand why that's a thing the kids want, but for some reason that's a thing over there.
Give me your sweat.
Yeah. So I enjoyed the heck out of that match. I don't know which one I liked better. I think I liked them both about even the two main events. Naito and Tanahashi. I think maybe I like that match a little bit better just because it was a little bit, I don't know, it's a little bit more concise. But, and I don't know, I'm not a huge fan of the constant Bullet Club, interference. Because that happened during the match. He kept throwing him outside and they would beat up on Okada and then throw him back in.
Yeah, no, I would agree with that. No, the double main event was, they were both really, really entertaining matches, but I would probably go with Naito and Tanahashi as well.
Okay. All right, so that's that show. That is current pro wrestling in New Japan. And now let's take a trip. Now
let me take you back to a year in 1993.
Yes.
And just for perspective, and because in some of my amazement of this show was I just kept putting in here, it's 1993 in my notes. Because to compare it to the WWF in 1993, this is the summer. I mean, Hogan had just left, I believe.
Okay.
He had just I think he would have lost to Yokozuna at King of the Ring or whatever it was. Mm-hmm. Bret Hart's on top. Doink the Clown's probably around. It was just such a different time in the WWF compared to the style of wrestling that was taking place on this show.
Oh yeah. And
in some of the matches. This
is shortly before we would get those Hogan in Japan matches when he was in between the after leaving the WWF.
Right,
skinny
right.
Hulk Hogan.
Yes, oddly skinny Hulk Hogan.
This show, it's the third of 3 shows run by WCW and New Japan. And actually, this is the second annual Tokyo Dome from January 4th, which is now when they have Wrestle Kingdom.
Well, yeah, I believe it was called Fantastic Story or something like that.
That's exactly what it was translated to. In Japan, it was promoted as Fantastic Story in Tokyo Dome.
Which I love, but I don't know if they could change the name of WrestleMania now or not.
Yeah. So during this, also noted to note, during the U.S. broadcast of this was actually short by 1 match because originally there's a tag team championship match on the show between the Hellraisers and the Steiner brothers But after this show was shot in January, before it would air in America in March, which is ridiculous nowadays to think about.
Oh yeah, you'd never get away with that.
2 months later, when it would air in March, the Steiners had left the company, so they couldn't use that match anymore. So we got a random 6-man tag match in the middle of this show as a replacement for that championship match, and it drags when we get there.
Don't remind me. And yeah, the Steiners were taking their talents to New York, so they could have epic battles with the Head Shrinkers and the Quebecers. So, but the first thing I know is like, good God, is there a more unlikable person than Eric Bischoff?
Oh my gosh! Like, and you don't even see him a ton.
No, but man, he appears on screen, and you're like, ugh! Like he's so smug, and oh my! There's nothing to like about that man.
Yeah, and he just kind of lists off various people and matches we're going to see tonight, not in any order. Just this is going to happen, and this is going to happen.
Just the names of the guys he could remember.
Yeah, and so, like we had said earlier, no bullshit on this show. He throws down to the ringside, and we start the first match right away. This the announcers described this match as a Japanese dream match. I'm not sure what company the one man is working for. So we have the IWGP Junior Heavyweight title on the line with Jushin Thunder Liger, the Beast God, taking on the Ultimate Dragon, or Ultimo Dragon, as some people would know him.
Yes.
But it was weird because they mentioned that, these two aren't Ultimo Dragon's for some other company. They didn't actually mention what company he was working for. I didn't hear. Did you hear that? Did they say what?
I thought they said that Liger had just come from like All Japan or something. I don't know.
Oh, now maybe that's the case because I had assumed that Liger was just because they kept talking about how pro Liger the crowd was. And so I assumed that was because it was a New Japan show.
I think he had just recently come to New Japan or something.
Oh, okay.
Was what I gathered from their rambling.
So right at the beginning of this match, 2 minutes into the show, we get a great line from JR as he almost says WWF but thinks better about it. And I'll play it for you now.
Yeah, as we said, Tony, this crowd very pro New Japan Pro Wrestling. This will be just like WCW having a pay-per-view in the United States and a wrestler from another wrestling organization winning one of the major titles in WCW and then defending it in one of the major pay-per-views. The same situation here in Tokyo. This one is
a man from another promotion. Yeah, that's all you need to know.
Yeah, so that cracked me up that he decided to. I felt like I could see his face as he was talking and just hitting that point where he was about to say WWF and just being like, no, you never mind, I'm not gonna say that.
And just touch on this now, like we were talking about Matt Stryker and Kevin Kelly,
yes,
both trying to be the play. Like Shivani and Jim Ross is a situation where you have two play-by-play guys that are commentating together, and like. They make it work, however, it just shows like their talent, I guess, because it's not an issue at all. Because I can't remember exactly what happened. I feel like Jesse Ventura had maybe just left the company or something like that.
Okay.
And they kind of just got like tossed together.
Crazy because you're right. It is two play-by-play guys, so you might not want them every week for your weekly show because you do need that color commentary every once in a while. But they work together very well during this show.
Oh, yeah.
Like, one of my notes even just said, holy shit, Shivani could give Matt Stryker a few lessons right away.
Now, they do have their issues, which I've noted throughout the show, but we'll get to those.
Okay. So at the beginning, JR also mentions that he's amazed that these men haven't lost any limbs because of their reckless offensive style.
Yeah, they must be playing near helicopter blades or something.
I also noticed at the beginning of this match how far the camera is from the ring. This arena is lighting that they have just shows off how big it is.
Oh, it's amazing. When they go to those wide shots, it's really impressive. Really impressive.
Oh, yeah.
And I was just also like, I was amazed. Like, out this, boom, as soon as this match starts, just amazing action.
They go straight into mat wrestling.
Right. 1993, this looks like any junior heavyweight match you would see today.
Yeah.
Like the things these guys are doing to one another, the style. It was years ahead of its time. Well, it wasn't years ahead of its time over there, but nothing like that was taking place in WWE in North America or in the United States for years to come.
And the announcers mentioned that they're like, we didn't really expect these guys to do a mat wrestling, be doing so much mat wrestling, but obviously they're both high flyers, so they want to try to take each other's abilities away. And Liger gets Ultimo Dragon in a Indian Deathlock, which I feel like no one uses that move anymore.
Now, are you talking about the I have here when he gets him in the Mexican surfboard?
No, that's later on.
Oh, okay.
This is real early because this is before anybody even tries to go to the top rope. He puts him in an Indian Deathlock, and at least that's what they call it. I don't know enough about wrestling to know if that's a legitimate Indian Deathlock. Because that's another thing, like you said, there's some issues, and we'll discuss them as we go on with names of moves. But so he puts him in this Indian Deathlock, and there's just a ridiculous variety of leg holds that they go through at the beginning of this match. I was just amazed at how many various positions that they were put in, and it didn't look like they were just like I was watching the Hell in a Cell WWE show from recently, and the Divas match when the Bella had the Charlotte in submission holds. It looked like she was just kind of just free balling. Like she was like, maybe I'll try putting my arm over here. And what happens if I do this? And
right.
Whereas these guys, it looked like every time they were setting, they knew exactly what move they were trying to put in, and they each had like a variety of 10 various leg holds.
No, absolutely. You're right.
Yeah, so then at about 10 minutes into this match, there's a little bit of miscommunication where both men kind of dive, but they go in different directions. And I really thought this was an interesting point where Shivani, he goes, I don't know what just happened. But JR is like, no, I'm going to salvage this shit. He's like, no, it was Ultimo Dragon's quickness. He saw that Liger was coming and was able to dive out of the way.
Are you talking about when he did that cartwheel?
Yes.
I thought it was, it did kind of look like one guy went for a dive and the other guy did a cartwheel to get out of the way.
I mean, I didn't go back and rewatch it, but when I first saw it, it looked like it was a mistake. But yeah, then you're right. He does do a cartwheel, so it might have been more on purpose. I just thought it was funny how Shivani was just going to give up on it. He was like, I don't know.
Right? Yeah, whatever.
So they finally go to the top rope for the first time. Ultimo Dragon goes to the top
and fucks it up,
and he slips.
That's what I have here. I was like. I was impressed that they waited so long into the match to go up top for the first time, and then as I'm typing it, he jumps off and it fucks up completely. I'm like, wow, what a great what a great match. They've really worked up to the top rope, and it's really gonna mean something, and then he fucking botches the first jump off the rope.
Now my question here is this a botch? Or was it on purpose? Because he does do it again later in the match. And when he does it later in the match, it was obviously on purpose. Now, was he doing that to make it look like the first one was on purpose? Because I took this as the story was being that he took so much leg damage, because Liger was pretty much on top throughout most of the mat wrestling, that he had taken so much leg damage, he was unable to do that. He was unable to leap off the top rope.
That may very well be the case. That's just a situation there where the announcers maybe not really being clear about that. How we perceive, that kind of takes the announcers helping you out there. So you might be right. It didn't look. It looked like a botch, but that would be a great move on his part if he was selling it that well.
Yeah, and there's a lot of points in this match where I feel like Ultimo Dragon just hurts himself.
Oh yeah, he was going all out.
Yeah, so we have that slip off the top, and then he slips again, and then they go outside and. Ultimo Dragon leaps onto Liger and just smashes his head on a table right next to him.
Oh, yeah, just smashes it. But, that's another thing I have here, though. Seriously, 1993, and they were like Rob Van Dam style, jumping over the guardrail into the front row. You know what I mean? Just complete disregard. Like that, again, that you wouldn't even think that was a possibility of happening in the WWF at that time. So, just... amazing action.
And I wrote down on this in my notes, so many people outside of the ring. There were so many fucking reporters.
How many fucking wrestling magazines could there possibly be? There was 20 guys taking pictures.
Oh, it was ridiculous. And whenever they would go to the outside, they had about an 8-foot section, and if they were going to go out of that, they had to warn somebody because those people were standing there taking pictures.
Right, go back and watch some of those, Shawn Michaels matches when he was beginning to lose his smile, or whatever you want to say, when he was being a shit in the ring. It's in your house, I can't remember, it might be the Mind Games match with Mankind or something. He's, kicking camera guys. He is, so pissed at, their presence. He was just, taking out all of his aggression on camera guys. And there were a lot of them, but it was nothing compared to how many there were at this show in 1993.
Yeah. So as they're next to ringside, we get one of the first interesting calls by the announcers as Liger hits a, quote, moonsault to the floor.
Oh yes, the moonsault to the floor.
So tell us what happens here.
Which was, it was, I'm not sure I would call that, it was a senton to the floor. I mean, they said, the moonsault, he pulled off the moonsault. But, again, another one of those moves, though, where I was like, still, he just did a senton from the top rope to the floor.
It's impressive.
In 1993.
It's really impressive.
Yeah, I got to go back, because maybe I'm ahead of myself, but I can't go past this.
Okay.
When he went for that Mexican surfboard...
Yes.
It was amazing. You could almost hear both men's brains exploding, Jim Ross and Schiavone. They didn't have the slightest clue what that move was.
Nope.
They had never seen that before. I mean,
some form of submission maneuver.
I have here, like, Tony Schiavone at one point said, standing on his calves.
Yeah, I remember. Yeah, he was standing on his hamstrings or something like that.
Yeah, really working those hamstrings. Like, no, dude, wait, give it another couple seconds and you'll see what he's going to do. But yeah, it was just awesome, kind of, again, 1993. You know, I'm not sure how often that was taking place.
Yeah, so Liger hits the moonsault to the floor, then after the Mexican surfboard, Dragon dives from the apron using a springboard, and another senton. He hits his leg on the barrier, which looked really hard. But again, we get told by Tony Schiavone some form of modified moonsault.
Yeah, modified moonsault. That's what we're calling everything. There was some stuff earlier that, like, one thing I really liked was they did a brain buster from the apron to the inside. Like, I've never seen that.
Yeah, that was really cool.
Like, I thought that was such, like, what an original idea, something that's simple that I've never seen people, you know, everybody does the suplex to the inside. Mm-hmm. The brain buster looked really cool. And at some point, too, in here, you got a tombstone pile driver, which... It's just one of those amazing things about Japan. Like, it's a tombstone pile driver. No big deal, you know.
We even got a reverse, like a multiple reversals out of tombstones. They did like this flipping motion thing. It was pretty cool.
Right. And I noticed, too, like, on top of all the photographers around the ring, their young boys at the time were dressed like astronauts from, like, a cheap sci-fi movie.
I noticed that
during
the main
event. They're all in, like,
spacesuits.
Very
shiny.
They're all like shiny spacesuits.
Yeah, so that which is interesting. So we're talking about the tombstone not being a finisher. What finishes this match? Just a Frankensteiner off the top rope. Liger hits a Frankensteiner. I mean, it's impressive, but I feel like compared to the tombstone, that move is not as impressive.
Well, there was a couple other things too. Liger, when he powerbombed the Dragon.
Oh, dude, he didn't let go.
It was like Kevin Nash.
Oh my God, yes.
It was like Kevin Nash or Sid, man. Just such disregard. It was like I couldn't believe it. They did a DDT off the top rope, and Dragon kicked out afterwards. Like in 1993, like I was just like and I couldn't. It was just amazing.
I was really impressed for being the first match. Like they go all over the place, and this is it's a long match, but it's a very well put together match.
Oh yeah, it might have been the best match on the card, and it was the first match.
It's very clear. So. Yeah, I'd put it up there. It's real good.
And then of course you get your giant unnecessary trophy, which again I don't understand. These guys they get their. It's like, what do they do with these trophies?
Yeah, that's the thing. Is like, you know, if these guys are successful, like, or guys that have been around for years, like Liger, it's like, does he just have like 2 rooms full of trophies at his house?
Exactly. Liger's held he's probably had 20 championships or more. How many freaking trophies does the guy have?
Oh, also during this match, we get JR showing his bias against masks.
Can't really tell the damage done as far as the motion because both their faces are covered. Oh, he went for a powerbomb. He's got him right there, I think, Tony. 2 count.
Oh, God, yeah. Go back to Oklahoma. Jesus.
I just thought it was hilarious how he couldn't let that go. It's like, this is an amazing match, but damn it, I can't see their faces.
There was still a lot of mask bias in 1993, Brandon.
No, I mean, fuck, there's still mask bias.
The world wasn't completely integrated yet.
So we go immediately, like that match ends, we watch them just like hop off the apron and right back into match number 2.
Yes, match number 2. Oh my, match number 2.
So who was this?
We've got Ron Simmons taking on Tony Halme.
Prototype.
The prototype. This is Simmons was coming off a WCW champion. Like, he had been the WCW champion just recently.
Yeah, they've mentioned it was like days before that he lost it. This match was scheduled for the championship.
But not only did they mention it, they wouldn't shut up about it. It's like, stop telling me how important this match almost was. I just constantly... Well, I mean, sorry, folks. This match almost meant something.
Yeah, I did hear him, like, at one point, like, right when the match started, I was like, I feel like if I was home, I would be really upset that this match isn't for the title all of a sudden. And they do mention it later on. They're like, I wonder if Holmes just upset because he thought he was going to be going on for the title.
Right. And now, for those of you out there, some of you hardcore fans may know Tony Halme as Ludwig Borga in the WWF.
Oh, he was in the WWF.
He had a short run in late 93, I believe, later this year. They were so impressed with this shitty match with Ron Simmons. They brought him in as this, like, super heel. He was, like, going up against Lex Luger when he was, like, Captain America.
Okay.
This whole thing. But here's how his gimmick was described on Wikipedia.
Okay.
He had the heel gimmick of a Finn who looked down on America because of perceived deficiencies in issues such as its environmental laws and educational system. His entrance music was the Finnish national anthem.
Oh, God. Why do they got to do that shit?
And then I kept digging, and it gets worse. During his parliamentary career, which happened, I think it was like between 2003 and 2007, he raised controversies. The day after the elections, he referred to the president as a lesbian in a radio interview. Halme stated that if a lesbian can be president of Finland and he can be a member of parliament, anything seems possible. A huge uproar ensued as much of the Finnish media treated the statement as a personal attack on the president. She herself made no comment. Halme later apologized, saying that he was sorry that the statement had been interpreted as an insult and that he had been under the genuine impression that she was a lesbian.
But that's hilarious. He's just like he's apologizing, not that he said those things, but just that he was wrong about saying this.
He's like, you mean she's not? Oh, well, shit. I'm sorry. I didn't know.
So for those that haven't watched the show, Halme looks like Jack from Tekken. Not like current modern day Robo Jack, but like the original Jack.
That was probably on purpose. I wouldn't be surprised if that wasn't intentional.
That's true. I didn't think about that. Tekken was a Japanese game. Right. So they have a long stare down at the top. The ref actually steps in because they kind of take a few swings at each other, and the ref's just like, hold on. You guys are even taking swings wrong. No closed fists. What the hell are you doing?
Jesus. Yeah, I have here. This was just a basic power match.
Oh,
Nothing Ron Simmons did wrong. Halme is just green and bad and awkward and...
Yeah, this is a sloppy match. A lot of tackling drills, basically.
But I did notice that, I have it noted here, that like Tony Schiavone almost did seem to have like a certain excitement in his voice, as if it was like, oh, thank God, two American wrestlers that are in there having a freaking WCW Saturday Night quality match here in freaking Tokyo Dome.
Schiavone's like, I'm finally home.
He's like, I can go this speed. This is good.
Yeah, but okay, so even at this speed, though, they decide to not say moves right. Simmons hits what the announcers call a sidewalk slam, which was actually what looked like a choke slam with the hand on the chest instead. Right.
There was one of those moments where they were probably like both writing something down, and they heard the slam, and they both looked at each other like, did you see that? Did you see? I don't know. Sidewalk slam! Just... Maybe, that's broad. Maybe it could have been something like a sidewalk slam.
And I'm pretty sure Ron Simmons was not happy about this match, because this match ends and he jumps out of the ring before the ref can even put his hand up.
Oh, I know. It was like he lost the match. It was, he was not happy at all. I'd imagine that dude was probably a douchebag, because I left out his darkest times, but he wasn't a great dude. He probably wasn't real easy to work with, I'd imagine, because it was also a situation where Simmons was coming into his territory, so...
Well, see, that's one of the things that I wanted to ask you about, because have you read any of the stuff about like the tensions whenever these companies in Japan would do talent exchanges with the United States companies?
I mean, like I've read it always seems fairly cordial, at least with like the top guys, Flair fighting like Tatsumi Fujinami and stuff like that. Like it always seems like it's.
Well, I know like
they have great matches, and it doesn't seem like it's too big of a deal.
Well, like I know, like Hulk Hogan specifically was very paranoid in his matches with Inoki and stuff. Like he's gonna break my arm and all this shit. And so I wondered when I saw that, we were gonna have this title match with our title on the line, but we kind of gave it to Vader 2 days before the pay-per-view. I just kind of wondered if that was like, let's make sure that Simmons is safe. Holm doesn't just take over and win our championship on their live show.
Yeah, no, I could definitely see that. Like I hadn't put that together. But that's probably 100% correct. Like, just hearing enough talk about the way shit goes down, that sounds very legit. Like,
yeah.
But I could see that being the case, because it was also, like I keep saying, it was a much different style, even in WCW at the time. I mean, WCW had a more pure wrestling brand in 1993, but they weren't doing the shit that these guys were doing on this show.
No.
And so I think the Japanese also always took themselves more seriously as a sport, you know what I mean? And less of like the cartoon that America had kind of turned it into.
Well, especially in New Japan, like that's their brand. I know there are a few more like out there brands.
Oh, well, yeah, obviously there's some crazy shit over there.
Yeah, but yeah, you're totally right though. So that match ends, Simmons wins. It has to like walk back to the ring so the ref can raise his arm from the outside, and then he leaves, and we go right into match number 3. Match number 3 is a tag team match. We have the team of Scott Norton and Dustin Rhodes.
Excuse me, that's Scott Flash Norton.
Oh, is that what he was called?
I have no idea why, but it's on his trunks, and I just remember him being billed as Flash Norton early in his career.
Like, I mean, maybe in an ironic way, like, you call fat guys tiny.
Right.
What about Scott Norton as Flash?
Right. And of all the guys that, like, made a career, made a name in Japan, and then came over here, why did Scott Norton have to come to America? Scott Norton in 1993... I swear he's better here than I ever saw him in WCW.
And I wasn't really impressed with him here either.
No, it was terrible. I'm just saying, like, he at least seemed like he was giving somewhat of an effort in this match. Dustin Rhodes, it's too bad he got kind of strapped down with this shit tag team partner because, I mean, he looked really good, I thought. I mean,
the announcers even start making mention of that. Like, maybe Dustin Rhodes shouldn't have been tagged with this guy. Well, throughout the match.
Because, if you're Dustin, the year before at the Super Show, he was teamed with his dad.
Oh, okay.
It's like I go from being teamed with Dusty Rhodes to Scott Norton.
Scott fucking Norton.
Right.
So, yeah, that team is taking on the team of Masa Saito and Shinya Hashimoto. Which Hashimoto, like Saito's an older guy, which this was another match where I was like, maybe does Antonio Inoki really have a foot infection? Because this was supposed to be Antonio Inoki and Hashimoto taking on Scott Norton and Dustin Rhodes.
I think we're doing like the work of Wrestling Observer reporters from 1993. Like, I'm sure this shit was figured out in 1993, and we're just like amazing ourselves with like, wait a second. They dropped the belt, and then Inoki doesn't show up? Seems kind of fishy, if you ask me.
It does seem a little bit fishy.
And then I don't know if the Steiner Brother thing would have really mattered to them at all. That really just kind of sucked for WCW.
So Norton, the standout mullet in a world of mullets, that is one of the most amazing mullets. I would say it deserves some sort of award. At the beginning of this match, Norton asks for more chest kicks from Hashimoto because he's doing the I'm going to stand here and not go off my feet tough guy gimmick.
Right, and I'm sure that's why he was making a living in Japan.
That makes sense, yeah. Dustin Rhodes kind of, throughout the match, comes in. For a long time, he doesn't come in, but once he does come in, he does a lot of dives. He takes most of the offense. Like, he takes most of the bumps.
Right. I would have rather this had been a handicap match because he was fun to watch. He was working his ass off.
Oh yeah, and he at one point he dives at Saito, who ducks and sends him over onto the raised entrance ramp. I thought that shot was awesome because their hard cam is on the ramp. Like, or on the stage, and so anytime that like they just pull out, all of a sudden there's a ramp there. It's kind of interesting. It's just interesting visually because you don't see that in current products.
And just real quick here, like. What? No wonder Dustin became Gold Dust. Jim Ross spent his entire entrance talking about Dusty and his dad's Dusty, and I don't even know if he said Scott Norton's name. Like, they never told you anything about Scott Norton.
Mm-hmm.
And then also I loved that Jim Ross, like, he's trying to explain to American wrestling fans who Antonio Inoki is. And he decides to use his match with Muhammad Ali. Y'all remember that wrestler versus boxing match he had with Muhammad Ali, right? No, Vin. Like, how about any other time? Like when he fought Andre the Giant, or like, they were just so afraid to have to say any like WWF competitor's name, I guess.
Oh yeah, the Americans hold control almost most of this match. Like they pretty much are in control. Beating down on the Japanese guys. There's a hope spot by Saito where he hits a few Saito suplexes. He hits first Scott Norton with one. Dustin comes in and tries to, get at him, and he hits him with one. Well, then in the time that it took him to hit Dustin with one, that allowed Scott Norton to get back up on his feet and be perfectly fine. So he then hits a clothesline and declares this match is over, even though we're only about halfway through.
Yeah. I have here Scott Norton is invincible. And then he had a botch, and I just have he is worse than that Tony Halme guy. And just as I was getting sick of watching him just get kicked and chopped and no selling, I have here I wish he would just go back to getting kicked and chopped and no selling because good God, man, it's get Dustin back in there.
No, and at this point in the match, midway through, he hits a superplex on Hashimoto, doesn't attempt a pin. He hits another big move, doesn't attempt a pin, and the announcers are picking up on this, and they're just he's not going for a pin. I feel like Dustin Rhodes is probably pretty frustrated because every time Dustin Rhodes came in, he'd hit a small move and go for a pin.
Because he kind of knows how wrestling works. That's pretty much the difference there.
So does he do Rick Rude's finisher, or was that just one of those things where he might have accidentally did one and they were like, oh shit, that was Rick Rude's finisher? Because they make mention of it, why did he do that?
What does he do? Is it fisherman suplex, or
I can't even remember specifically what it was.
I'm drawing a blank
It's almost like almost like a diamond cutter style thing where the guy's head is over the shoulder when they go down.
Oh yeah. I know what you're talking about now. Yeah, I don't know, probably because Rude in '93 was the international champion or whatever the hell they called it.
Okay, but he was in WCW at the time?
Yeah, I think so. I think he was still there at that point.
I can never get his, that guy specifically, I never know what company he's in, whichever year it ends up being.
Because he would just pop in for a year and take the place over, and then he'd go to the other company, and he was just great like that.
So this was a slow match. You said that Norton's worse than Halme. I still enjoyed this match more than the Halme versus Simmons match.
Oh, it was entertaining. Yeah, it was good.
We get lots of pin breakups. The match only ends when Norton was just too slow. He was on the apron. He was in the same position he was when he broke up 5 pins before that. But this time he was just too slow getting in to break up the pin, and the Hashimoto pins Rhodes for the win.
The match was so long. It was God, it was fine for a while, and then it was too much. And the Japanese fans booed Rhodes. They hated it when he broke up that pinfall. They were like, what are you doing to us, man?
Yeah.
We don't want any more of this. Yeah, kick to the back of the head ends it. Hashimoto and Saito win.
So, after this match, we go back to Eric Bischoff, everyone's favorite, with more promotions of what's to come.
With his awkward, are you just making these up off the top of your head with his names again? He's like, we have matches with Sting and Tenzin and these guys. It was do you have it in front of you, or what, are you just saying people that you can see?
Yeah, it was weird, and it's done in 15 seconds. He comes up, they show a few pictures, goes back to the
what I took away from it was it basically felt like he was, hey, American wrestling fans, hang in there. There's going to be people that you give a shit about coming up, all right? We got Sting. You're going to love it, all right? Just hang on.
You just watched a singles match with Simmons and Halme, and then Norton in a match.
Right.
Please just keep watching.
So they should have came back on and a PSA stuff American wrestling fans, I would just like to apologize for the performance of Scott Norton in that match. We promise we will never show you him again. And then that would be a lie because he was one of the amazing NWO members.
So,
but we did get a palate cleanser.
Yeah, so this match, this is what I mean, I'll go ahead and say it. This is my match of the night. I love this next match.
Yeah, it was awesome.
Match number 4 for the NWA Heavyweight Championship. We have Masahiro Chono, the champion, coming in to take on the Great Muta, the IWGP champion.
Which the announcers felt an immense need to continue to tell us that his name is Kenji Muto. And he's the Great Muta when he puts on the face paint.
Oh, good God.
He becomes a different person,
This was
Shivani.
fucking Corporate Kane, Demon Kane all over again. I just watched that shitty match last night. I muted the video because I couldn't listen to the announcers. And then I start watching this morning, and I'm like, God damn it, stop talking about Kenji. Just talk about the Great Muta.
Well, I don't understand why they were doing it either, because Muta had already had a good run in WCW. He'd been the TV champ. I think they'd already done the JTEX Corporation with Tamagotchi. I can't remember the guy's name. That was like the ran that Tojo Yamamoto, or I don't know, something like that.
Okay.
It was like him, Terry Funk, Buzz Sawyer, Bunkhouse Buck. It was just he had a good run in the company. He had matches with Sting. He was a big deal. So I felt like of all the guys on this card, you didn't need to really tell me a lot about. They spent a lot of time telling me about the Great Muta. It's like, I know who the Great Muta is, all right? WCW fans at this time would have an idea of who the Great Muta is, Yeah,
it's like, tell me about this Chono guy.
Well, they really skirted around the fact, it's like, wait, he's the NWA champion. When did that happen?
Well, I was reading into that, and there was I was reading about how, NWA championship was weird at this time. Because, WCW kind of had it, and then they kind of didn't have it, back and forth a few times, and then, it was weird the way that all worked out. I couldn't make a whole lot of sense of the whole thing, but...
Well, they had made the split from... WCW had made the split from the NWA altogether.
Yeah.
I think in, I don't know, 91
but when they made the
something.
split, they stole the style of the belt, apparently. They just kept the same belt. And they called it the big gold belt for a few matches, and then they finally started calling it the WCW Heavyweight Championship belt or something, is what I read.
Right. It was also the International Championship, I think.
Oh, okay. So yeah, as this music, the entrance music, I really love Muta's entrance music. I thought his whole entrance was awesome, but the music I really enjoyed.
Yeah. I like that he broke through the paper thing like a high school football team.
Oh yeah. Yeah, because as they throw to that entrance, they made it sound like I was going to watch, The Undertaker coming out at WrestleMania. It's just like Muta broke through some paper. All right. JR talks up the STF like it's the world's most dangerous and hard to master move.
Well, it is a deadly one.
God damn it, Chono learned the STF. Muta better be watching out.
Well, that's it. He's got the STF. He's unbeatable.
So yeah, early into this match, as they're doing their kind of lockups and stuff, Muta rolls outside, pulls up the apron, and I'm like, what is going on? I was like, what is he doing? He grabs a wrench with a spike on the end of it. It looked terribly dangerous. The ref's obviously seeing all this and just takes it away from him, and they just continue the match.
Right? He's like, all right, fine, I won't use it. I love to early here in the match too, at some point. When Shivani says, Muta's doing one of his signature moves right there. The straight leg to the chest. It was just a fucking... It wasn't even like karate kick to the chest. It was like a kick to the midsection type of a thing. And he was like, one of his signature moves. Straight leg to the chest.
Oh, my goodness. And so at this point, we get another interesting old white men from America don't understand the way the rest of international wrestling works. This time, Tony Schiavone complaining, I can't tell if he's upset or not because he's got face paint on.
Another point it might be brought up here, Jim, as you take a look at now Chono focusing on the leg of the Great Muta, and you can't really tell because of the face paint what he's thinking, but I'm not so sure if Muta is really sure of what he wants to do here or not.
Right. Now it's the paint's fault. It's like, just call it, man. What do you think? Just fucking say something.
Yep.
It's like they were pouting. Oh, I don't like it. I can't see their faces.
This match started off similarly to the earlier Junior Heavyweight Championship match. Lots of mat wrestling early on. Chono is, softening up the legs of Muta because obviously he has the STF. But yeah, he's softening up the legs a lot.
Right. JR had to explain to wrestling fans that it's not a disqualification to throw someone over the top rope in Japan. Because in WCW at that point, Bill Watts was in charge, and it was a disqualification. Yeah.
So early on in this match, especially as I was watching it, I started really connecting Muta's style. I'm pretty sure Tetsuya Naito is doing a little bit of a Muta impression.
I mean, that would make sense.
Because he's very much the same, where, the eyes are kind of out there. He's not really, it doesn't look like he's really all there right then. It's very herky-jerky, like it's only fast when it's because it needs to be brutal. It doesn't, it's not like flashy, but it's just very like, just beating the other dude up. I don't know, I enjoyed the hell out of it, but I just thought it was interesting the way that those two had the parallels in the styles of wrestling.
No, that's a good call. I think you're right. There's a lot of similarities there.
So yeah, at one point, Muta slams Chono face first into the entrance ramp and then walks a good 30 feet away. Just all the way up the entrance ramp, about halfway up.
Dude, I said 50 yards, man. He ran 50 yards for a
said
clothesline.
30 yards, and I was like, that seems too far, so I guess 30 feet. But yeah, 50 yards maybe. 30 yards probably closer to the actual distance, but it was a long way.
It was excessive.
Yeah, he walked way up there and then just sprints all out and just clotheslines the fuck out of Chono. It's like, I mean, that's one of those points where it's like, all right, I'm suspending my disbelief. All right, Chono stood there and waited for him to sprint at him for 50 feet,
right.
50 yards.
Come on, get it over with.
Chono gets back into the ring by a 17 count after that clothesline, which at this point, the announcers start really digging into the whole. In Japan, you get a 20 count outside of the ring instead of a 10 count. Muto superplexes Chono. There's a lot of superplexes on the show. I wasn't really expecting so many of those. It seems like it's kind of a staple move over there.
I do have here, too, like the announcers still will not stop talking about how crazy Muta is with the face paint on. Like, just constantly, Kenji Muto is not this, he's different, he's the great Muta. Like, we get it, man. Like, what? I don't know why you keep talking about him like that.
So yeah, I wrote down. Yeah, I have a audio clip here with you talking about JR complaining about the craziness. I'm not a psychiatrist, but they tell me that he's just completely different with the face paint on.
Yeah, he's just completely different. Just different.
Well, I'm not a psychologist. I probably need to see one from time to time, but I'll tell you this. The fact is that the media here says when the guy wears his paint, that he's a different animal than when his paint is off his face, whether it be true or not. Hear the impact there. See, but with or without the paint, we've seen him use the handspring. Uh-oh.
So Muta misses a moonsault, an actual moonsault this time.
Right,
and,
yeah, that they properly call, mind you.
Which, yeah, at that point, it's like, okay, in your brain, what do you think a moonsault is? Like, is it just any move off the top rope with a flip?
I guess.
I just don't get it. All right, so, so they have that, oh, shoot, what was it?
I have here, too, like, once Muta had sweat the paint off.
Yes.
That may have been my favorite part of the entire match, because then the announcers had to find a way to explain, he's still crazy. He's still crazy without the face paint. It was like, they were like, oh, shit. They spent the whole match constantly reminding you how crazy Kenji Muto is with his face painted. And then when he had sweat all of it off, they were like, he's still the great Muta, all right? He's still fucking crazy.
It comes off in large swaths. You get the left side of the face is gone, and then about 2 moves later, the right side of the face is gone, just the center's there, and then that's all of a sudden just gone. And it just wipes completely clean away.
Right, you're like, wait, who's this guy? What happened to the Muta?
Yeah, so Chono actually reverses a moonsault by pulling up his knees. Muta just slams his face directly on those knees, man.
That was brutal.
So brutal. At the end, Muta finally hits the moonsault. Chono kicks out, hits another moonsault, and this time he pins the NWA champion, becoming a dual champion, IWGP and NWA champion.
Which, I mean, sounds impressive.
Yeah, that's true. I mean, it does. Like you said, at this point, even the NWA is kind of fading.
Yeah, I think Rob Conway was their champion last time I checked. So, hey, good for him, but I'm not sure what that says about the NWA.
Yeah, no, I loved this match, but I put down in my notes, I feel like I'm being haunted by double champions. It's like all of a sudden, like we mentioned, the double championship happens in ROH with Jay Lethal, and then the WWE's like, that's kind of cool, let's have a double champion with Seth Rollins. Right. And then we watch that Vengeance show where they're doing the Undisputed title, so there's a double champion. Yeah. And then we watch this match, and we have another double champion. I was like, I didn't realize this was such a common thing in wrestling.
I don't know if it had more to do with, like, how we were like randomly selecting wrestling shows at the time, so it was a coincidence, or maybe they do just have a lot of that going on.
So this match, I feel like this should have been the main event. Obviously, for the American audience, they wanted the Sting in the main event. But we then go very quickly.
We got to... Bischoff, of course, has to come in and tell everybody that JR and Shivani are...
Oh, yes.
JR and Shivani, they're at the sushi bar right now. And then he's like, even though Shivani prefers Italian and JR likes barbecue...
Bischoff here, glad to be with you. Of course, Jim Ross and Tony Shivani needed a break. They are headed to a sushi bar. That ought to be interesting. Tony Schiavone, who has a penchant for Italian food, and Jim Ross, who likes that southern fried cooking. I don't know how long they'll be there. Six-man action coming your way.
And he thinks it's so funny. And he doesn't have anybody to laugh at it, though. There's nobody else with him.
Not at all. Like, I thought that was really funny, but then, like, Eric Bischoff announces this match. Obviously because this match wasn't originally supposed to be announced, probably recorded in a booth, 2 months after the show.
Right. Yeah, exactly.
So he's calling this match. This match is a 6-man tag match. We have the team of El Samurai, Akira Nogami, Takayuki Iizuka
versus Nobukazu Hira, Mosayo Orihara, and Koki Kitahara.
So these two guys, these are two teams, one team from New Japan, the other team from War. Bischoff just rambles pretty much this whole match. Like, he's just kind of talking about all kinds of bullshit.
He doesn't know any of their names. He doesn't know any of the moves they're doing.
No.
I'm pretty sure he completely loses track of who's on what team about 10 seconds into it.
Before the match even starts, as they're all just standing around, there is an extended standing around period in the ring. I don't know why it is, but Bischoff even goes, "This is the longest introduction I've ever seen."
Yeah. Well,
like, what is going on?
And I did like to. He kind of gave it like a try at the beginning of the match with the action.
Yeah.
And then literally just like stops. Like he starts to like lose it, and then that's when he just starts talking about random shit, like you were saying. It was kind of funny.
Yeah. And like, as far as comparison with the multi-man tag matches, in this one I would compare to kind of the young lions versus the veterans, in that if I was just coming into it, I wouldn't know how to tell half of these guys apart. Like,
they don't. Yeah, there's not really anybody that stands out.
El Samurai, who stands out because he has a mask.
Well, yeah.
Nobuzaku Hira, he kind of stands out because he's bald and a little bit skinnier. He looks a little like Christopher Daniels. But then all the other guys, there's literally 3 guys that look almost identical with just different color trunks and boots. We have a pink boot, a blue boot, and a yellow boot guy.
Yeah. And I have here, too, like, quite a few botches, and this match
this is not a great match.
And it was really long, and even Bischoff at one point says, it's starting to feel like a marathon.
Yeah.
And then speaking of your guy in pink, at one point he gets on the top rope, and he's up there, oh, man, what's he going to do? And he jumps down, lands on his feet, and then drop kicks the guy. Why did you do a drop kick from the top rope, or just don't go up there at all? He just hopped down and then drop kicked the guy. Yeah. But this does have one of the funniest kind of sad endings I've ever seen in a match.
Well, here, before we get to the end, I really enjoyed, I'd like to see a few more matches from El Samurai. He does a very brutal looking pile driver, goes for the pin, the ref slow counts it for some reason, so Samurai gets up, hits another pile driver move, but this time the pin is broken up, and I'm pretty sure the reason the slow count was because the guy was originally supposed to break up after the first pile driver pin attempt, and just didn't come into the ring, because it was weird.
Yeah.
So go ahead and go to the end here.
Okay, so I'm sorry, I lost track of people as well, like Eric Bischoff. But the dude gets powerbombed, and it is nasty.
Oh,
Such a nasty powerbomb. His head bounces off the mat.
And just goes
And at this point, we get a wrestling version of Weekend at Bernie's in this fucking tag team match. Instead of just ending the match, they, dance around this guy for, another 2 minutes, it feels like. He's knocked out cold. He didn't even kick out the first time.
No.
He laid there motionless, and the guy just, got off of him, kind of, and the ref stopped counting.
Yeah.
And so, everybody kind of fights around him a little bit, and they kind of pull on him and realize that he's out. And but they just pin him, and they win 1, 2, 3.
His own teammate comes into the ring and slaps him across the face, and he still doesn't get up.
Yeah, because he's fucking knocked out.
And, like, the end, the only reason that the pin was able to go through is as they were all fighting, they happened to kind of fall outside of the ring. And so they all fell outside. One guy was still inside. He pins him, and they get the victory. It was New Japan guys win.
So, yeah, it was whatever. It was an okay match. Definitely would have rather seen the Steiner brothers fight Hawk and Kinzuki Sasaki here.
So now we go to the main event. Match number 6. What do we have here, Tony?
Oh, my, okay. There's some little bit of funny stuff here. All right, so we have Sting taking on Hiroshi Hase.
Man Cold Sting!
Man Cold Sting!
I don't know what...
Man Cold... I think that's all it says over.
The chorus is fine. It's the verse that I love. I wrote down some of this.
Right,
he does this. He does that. Is one of the lines.
He does that. He's big as a bull and he's quick as a cat. He looks fine. He looks cool. He's his own man and he's nobody's fool. Don't you dare cross him or get in his way. 'Cause if you do, you're gonna have to pay for the
So he does, Brandon. He does that and this.
Oh, God, I love that song.
But,
all right, so go ahead.
So JR is so excited to be able to deliver his famous 10-minute description of Sting's background because he finally knows who the fuck this is. So he gives you Sting's entire breakdown as if, you're probably a WCW fan if you're watching the American version of this anyway.
Yeah.
And then Hase, JR explains that Hase is his favorite wrestler over here because he is articulate and used to teach children, was about the best that I could take from him.
Yeah, he didn't really... He says that he's his favorite Japanese wrestler, and then he really, he kind of starts talking about him being a teacher, but he doesn't really connect those two dots. He just says he's his favorite wrestler, and then, all right, he does the
He's
other thing.
also a pretty badass wrestler, why don't you just sell me on something that he's done recently that's impressive, it's like...
Yes.
It's not like he's some new guy that just got there, was a teacher a week ago.
But we do have another connection to the King of Pro Wrestling show. The original teacher, Mr. Hiroshi Hase, instead of Mr. Matt Striker.
Yeah, I'm sure he'd love to get a picture taken with him. The Hase handshake at the beginning made me laugh because it just seemed like, it's this big moment that they're shaking hands. And then as soon as he was done shaking Sting's hand, he just turned to the referee and shook the ref's hand. Kind of awkwardly. I didn't quite understand.
See, I put down, I was like, this must be a face versus face match because they're shaking hands and everything. Yeah. At this point, we get a line from JR. He has had it up to here with the food in Japan.
I'd be glad to get back home and have a burger for less than $20. Shoulder block takedown.
He's just so excited because this is the last match so he can get home and get a hamburger.
Oh, God forbid, JR. You won't have enough hamburgers in your life. Something else funny. I have it here. Japan sounds like Nick Swardson describing his grandmother's amazement at his strength. If you've ever heard Nick Swardson stand up when he's impressing his grandmother by lifting gallons of milk and stuff, when Sting is just throwing Hase around, picking him up, that crowd is oh my, they're just amazed that he's picking him up like that.
I will say, even though I don't think this match is as good as the Chono match, the crowd really likes Sting. They
were so into him.
So much a reaction to Sting.
Because he's got blonde hair, he's perfect, he's exactly what they would, if the generic American wrestler on their Japanese video games, wrestling video game at the time, was probably someone that looked like Sting,
Yeah.
It was named Beefcake or something. Probably.
JR says at one point, if Sting can survive his rivalry with Vader, he has a chance to be the most popular wrestler in WCW history.
It's what the fuck does that have to do with anything?
I was how many people are involved with Vader right now? He just beat Simmons.
Let's face it.
Conversation happening?
Sting's doom was on its way. Mr. Hogan was and was on his way. Savage was on his way. So Sting's glory was about to come to a crash for a little while. Man, I was amazed, and I'm sure WCW maybe felt the same way. Hase kicked the shit out of Sting in this match, man.
Oh yeah,
just all over the place, kicked his ass, stretching him. The announcers were speechless. Like, they didn't know what, they were like, what, Sting's getting beat. Like, they didn't know what the fuck to say about it.
Oh, yeah. And at one point, he's got Sting in, like, it's some sort of leg hold where he's standing up, and he starts doing a Rick Rude, like, hip swing. The announcers are just like, what is going on?
And they were trying so hard, like you were saying, to sell him as being tough enough to beat Vader.
Yeah.
And at the same time, like, they're trying to talk about him beating Vader, and Hase was just kicking his ass. I mean, it was just zero offense from Sting.
Yes. I felt like this match went a little bit too long for what they were doing. Like, I don't know, it just seemed like there wasn't, like, enough drama in, like, the real, like, who's gonna win. Like, yeah, they were kicking each other's ass, and it was a decent match, but I just felt like it went a slightly bit too long.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, no, definitely too long. I mean, I'm sure WCW, probably wanted 20 minutes out of Sting. So
yeah. The match ends when Sting hits a leaping DDT, then hits a body slam to set up the big splash from the top rope.
Yeah,
Sting pins
ugly.
Hase.
Just before that happened, though, there was a point where Hase reversed Sting's jump off the top. Mm-hmm. And after that happens, Sting's kind of getting up, and the ref just goes over and starts rubbing Sting's nipple, and asking him if he's okay. Like, why is that ref rubbing his nipple?
Yeah, I did see that because he reversed it with like a kick sort of a thing into the chest. But yeah, so I thought the match had good spots, but yeah, like I said, it was overall just kind of felt a little bit lacking by the end. I thought the end was just kind of flat.
Yeah, no, I agree, and again, who knows what the discussion in the back was and how difficult it was to probably even figure out who was winning that match. Like the end may have been like on the fly or something, because it all did kind of feel like it fell apart at the end.
So that match ends and the show is over within 20 seconds of that match ending. I thought that the match was going to get cut off because I had seen, like, I accidentally bumped my mouse and the YouTube bar popped up, and I was like, this isn't going to end. I was like, I'm going to miss the end of this match.
Oh, I know. It was quick, man. There wasn't much afterwards.
No, just boom, boom, done. And then, Eric Bischoff sends us home.
Send us home, Eric.
Yeah, so what were your overall thoughts on this show? What do you think?
I think watching the most recent New Japan show and then watching this, I was amazed at how similar the style still is. Like 1993 didn't look a lot different than 2015, and I don't mean that in a bad way. You know what I mean? Like, I just think it shows how far ahead of time they were in 93, just the kind of stuff they were doing in their matches. So it was very entertaining. I liked the Masahiro Chono and Great Muta match. That was awesome. Jushin Liger and Ultimo Dragon, were just really, really entertaining matches. Great showcase of, the kind of talent New Japan had even at that time. So,
and it was also interesting watching, modern day Jushin Thunder Liger and then ridiculously younger Jushin Thunder Liger from 1993.
Not much different.
A little bit faster. He's not a ton different. The look isn't different because he was the most brilliant man on earth in picking a look that will be timeless.
Right, exactly.
Because he's completely covered, so you don't see any of his body and see any of the aging.
Exactly. Yeah, Conan said at one point about Rey Mysterio. Why would he take his mask off? It makes him ageless. He's
makes sense.
Rey Mysterio looks like he did in 1996, other than maybe his body size and his broken legs. But
if you were going to tell somebody to watch either of these shows, what would you tell them to watch?
Oh, I would definitely recommend the most recent New Japan stuff. I mean, the WCW Supershow had some good nostalgia. It's funny listening to Jim Ross and Shivani work together, and getting to see some guys that are still around in their prime at the time. It was a fun watch, but obviously I would recommend the current New Japan product. It's a lot better. I would say the same thing about the WWE. Don't watch the WWE's product from 1993. I mean, unless you're looking for some nostalgia.
All right, so I guess I would say that my opinion is very much similar to yours. If you're looking to, if you want to see a great Muta match, I'm sure there's more classic matches in his history. This is a good one though, and it's on YouTube. It's free to watch. So I enjoyed the hell out of this show as far as, I didn't enjoy it as far as like, this was the most amazing wrestling show. But like you said, there's interesting points, and you can always skip the slow stuff. We obviously didn't because we're reviewing the show.
Right. Right. Yeah, exactly.
But if you're sitting around and you don't want to watch that 6-man match with the guys from War, I don't blame you.
Yeah. I didn't want to watch it either, okay, but I did.
I thought about skipping it. When it started getting long, when Bischoff's like, this is a marathon, I was like, you know what? I should just skip this. It wasn't supposed to be in the show. We're not probably going to talk about it that much anyways, but I figured I'd stick it out.
And then the end happened, and it's like, okay, well.
Yeah, exactly.
I'm glad I watched this, because that's one of the craziest things I've ever seen on a wrestling show. 5 men wrestling around a dead man in the middle of the ring, basically.
Oh, gosh. Let's go ahead and let's wrap this up, sir. Where can people find you online if they're looking for more information?
Obviously, through the Golden Age podcast Twitter handle itself, or Beyond Sanity 19 is where you can find me on Twitter.
Okay, so Beyond Sanity 19 on Twitter. I am Deadpool1205. As Tony has just stated, you can find our show Twitter, Grapplecast, at Grapplecast. The website, www.goldenagepodcast.com. The intro music brought to you by the Porno Stuntmen. Check them out if you get a chance. I like them quite a bit. All right, I guess we will see you next week.
Until we meet again.
So long.